Hey guys, so I let everyone know that I will not be in today's meeting. I'm actually in California filming an event. So I know today is my turn to present chapter 2, and I just wanted to keep everything on track, so I will be presenting through video. I'm going to start by reading my chief aim. I, Gordon Cowie, will live a fun life pleasing to God and achieve inner peace and happiness. I'll be the highest paid film director in the United States. In return, I'll make visually groundbreaking films that leave people touched, moved, and inspired, as well as open hearts to being vulnerable through visual beauty. In 2011, I'll raise $40,000 or more to register for Berkeley Digital Film Institute, and in 2012, I'll achieve world fame, and from then onward, I'll have a minimum of $10 million in my bank account. Cool. And everything's going great with my second action step. I got the flyers complete for the run, and I'm going to print them on Wednesday. And, Jesse, we need to film your action step for number 2. We filmed Mookie's this last weekend. And Lisa, we need to film your first and second action step in the next couple weeks whenever you get your actions steps in place. So we just need to be in communication about that. And Jesse, I was busy this last weekend, but I'm going to spend Wednesday and Thursday researching the Kickstarter videos to see what makes a successful Kickstarter video compared to the ones that don't get fully funded, and then I'll be in communication with you about that. So lesson 2, self-confidence. So that's basically self-explanatory right there. The whole chapter was about confidence and auto-suggestion to instill confidence basically in yourself, believing that it can happen. And basically you have the dominating thoughts of success and believing in yourself and all the good stuff. So it was a long chapter, it's about 30 pages. So I'm just going to read some of the material that I highlighted and I just thought was valuable and kind of talk about it and go through it that way. So, lesson 2, self-confidence. You can do it if you believe you can. So, skepticism is the deadly enemy of progress and self-development. Thought is the most highly organized form of energy known to man. We have already discovered the fact that fear is the chief reason for poverty and failure and misery that takes on 1,000 different forms. We have already discovered that the fact that the man who masters fear may march onto a successful achievement in practically in any undertaking, in spite of all efforts to defeat him. The development of self-confidence starts with the elimination of this demon called fear, which sits upon a man's shoulder and whispers into his ear, "You can do it. You are afraid to try. You are afraid of you can't do it. You're afraid to try. You're afraid of public opinion. You are afraid that you will fail. You're afraid that you have not the ability." So basically, the introduction and the first couple pages of the chapter are talking about fear, basically, how fear stops us. And I feel, with my personal experience, the only way you know if you're dealing with fear right is if you're in action. Really, I think the only way to really tell if you're being stopped by fear. If you just keep moving and keep going and you just don't make time for fear. You just book everything down the line and schedule it and just make your schedule so busy that you don't have time for it. Or just don't listen to that voice, basically, that continues to talk in your head that wants to stop you. So forms of fear, or the 2 biggest things most people fear are old age and poverty, and it goes on to talk about how basically we're working so hard so we can live a nice life and so we can relax and stay young for a long time, but what happens is we work so hard to become retired or work or become rich that basically the opposite happens. We just burn ourselves out, and by the time we're 40, we're looking like we're 50, and so on. Self-confidence basically develops when it's used and disappears when it's not, and goes on to talk about how you basically know you're using it if you feel like unsure of yourself and you're still moving forward, like you're having those conversations that are kind of holding you back, and or you're not having those conversations basically that could possibly progress you and move you forward in a rapid speed. I remember in action step number 1, Mookie, I made a request of her to make one bold request to someone to fold her, and then she's like, I don't know, like she kind of like was hesitant about it, but then she took it on, and like it was completely obvious that's what she needed to do. She needed to start making some bold requests for some funding, and it kind of like rattled her for a minute, but then she got like, yeah, like this is something like she should be doing. So that's going to develop self-confidence for Mookie, making those bold requests for funding. So, and then for me, I'm going to have to be making those requests for the run, basically, of people to help me and support me in raising money for that run. So those are the conversations I'm going to need to be having with people, and I'm sure that like feeling those fears will come up. So okay, then it goes on to this creed basically that this woman wrote for this man, that he basically posted on his desk and read every day basically, and didn't just read it, he took it and applied it into his life, and that made him one of the best salesmen in the world. And he goes on to tell, like, if we took this on and adapted it in ourselves, that it definitely wouldn't hurt our causes, no matter what we're doing. But he also rephrases it and comes up with his own self-confidence formula here in a couple pages, which I'll go through. So, you learned in lesson 1 that any idea you firmly fix in your subconscious mind by repeated affirmation automatically becomes a plan or blueprint that an unseen power uses in directing your efforts towards the attainment of the object named in that plan. You might well remember that nothing can bring you success but yourself. Of course, you'll need the cooperation of others if you aim to attain a success of a far-reaching nature, but you'll never get that cooperation unless you vitalize your mind with a positive attitude of self-confidence. Select any 2 people of these 2 types that you choose and study them, and the reason that one advances and the other stands still will be quite obvious to you. You'll find that the one who advances believes in himself. You'll find that he backs this belief with such dynamic, aggressive action that he lets others know that he believes in himself. You'll also notice that this self-confidence is contagious, it is impelling, it is persuasive, it attracts others. So basically it just goes on to talk about more about the law of attraction, how the more you think about what you want, you're going to attract same like-minded people. And really the only thing that's in our way of accomplishing these goals that we each want to accomplish is ourselves. So I challenge each one of us just basically to conquer our mind. I've been working on mine a lot lately, actually, just focusing on just being a director, a film director, and just holding those thoughts just throughout the day. And slowly but surely, it starts to change. And once it takes change, things start showing up. So I challenge everyone just to watch their thoughts and basically take control. Because really, the only thing in each one of our ways is ourself. That's it. So here on page 32, there's a self-confidence formula. I'm not going to read the whole thing out loud, but he makes a request of, before you sign your name to this formula, make sure that you intend to carry out the instructions. In the back of this formula lies a law that no man can explain. So basically we were doing this before when we first started reading Think and Grow Rich, that we were supposed to read the self-confidence formula once per day. I'm sure we've all stopped doing that, and I make a request that we all start doing it again every single morning, right when you wake up, and don't just read it. Like, read it in a way that you take it in and you can remember it throughout the day, where you can actually apply it and start applying it to yourself until you're walking, living, breathing that formula. Where fear controls significant achievement becomes an impossibility. So if we're wanting to do anything huge, fear's got to be out of the way. Your only limitation within reason is the one that you set up in your own mind. This is great because we can each take this on. We all have limitations in our head. Even when we set up those action steps, we put in limitations, and they might be goals or action steps, but those right there are almost our limitations too. Like, I said I wanted to make $10,000 out of the run. If I did $10,000 from the run, if we gathered 10,000, that would be a success. And that's an achievement, but that to me is also a limitation. Like, okay, am I saying I can only come up with $10,000? Or quite possibly, is this what's going to do it to really come up with the full $40,000? Why not? Why am I putting a limitation on myself? I'm saying like I'm only capable of putting together enough people to support me of $10,000, or Jesse, like say there's a funding by a certain date. Say you have your funding 6 months down the road, you're only capable of achieving that funding. It's going to take you 6 months to achieve that. Like that's completely set up in our own mind and what we think is possible before that time. But if we really wanted to, like all these action steps, I know they probably could be like cut in half. Really, really look at it with your goal. Like what limitations have you put on this goal? Like what could have this goal be even bigger or happen even quicker? What kind of limitation did you say, like, okay, this can happen, but I have to do all this stuff first? I'm sure if you looked at it, all that stuff doesn't have to be done before. There's probably some limitation you put on yourself to make it happen even faster. The end, the very last couple sentences on page 46. Go back now to the self-confidence formula and master it, for it will lead you into the powerhouse of your own mind, where you will tap a force that can be made to carry you to the very top of the ladder of success. Then it had a couple of definitions right here that are really good to go through, so I suggest that everyone reads those. So in conclusion, this whole chapter was just about self-confidence and just building that confidence, which comes from just looking at yourself and looking really at what you're avoiding. What tasks are you avoiding? So we should all list something that we're avoiding. I think we should go around and just list one thing we're avoiding and promise to take that on within this chapter. So we have 3 weeks to take it on and come back next week and have taken that on basically. So let's think what I can take on that I've been avoiding. Oh, so I'm going out of town this weekend with Martin, and I don't want the weekend to go by without me talking to him about the run and getting him signed up as one of the people that's going to raise money for me for the run. And I want him to commit to raising $1,000 for me, because I definitely know he can do it, and easily if he put his mind to it. He wouldn't even have to put his mind to it. He'd do it that easy. So yeah, you can count on me to do that this week, and I will not let the trip go by without having that conversation. And also, Kyle, to get clear with him of all the videos that he wants done even after these next 5 weeks. So to pretty much be clear on the next like 3 to 5 months would be nice. To get clear with him what he wants to do, what videos he wants to do, so I keep generating that income. Those are 2 conversations I'm going to have while I'm there with Martin and not shy away from those. So I want everyone else now to go around, Mookie, Lisa, and Jesse, and really look at, name out loud one step that you guys have been avoiding, or just one action step that you've really been avoiding that you'll take on this week, and come back next week and report it, that you've done it. And don't let fear stop you. Have fun.